Hey traders, welcome to another crypto market update. We'll be primarily looking at BTC, the US dollar, and then looking at some alts as well. But we'll try to keep it a little bit more open, see what's out there. But the main kind of focus of this video is going to be looking at some opportunities within BTC because we have really two options that are currently playing out. One of which is very bullish, and the other one will take a little bit more of a consolidation, but still is a great continuation pattern. So without further ado, let's go into the price action of BTC, and then we'll look at the USD, which is the DXY, soon after, because they are negatively correlated. We want to see a fall within the US dollar within this ascending wedge continuational pattern to the downside, and then we're going to be looking for the BTC hold of the 30K, either a descending triangle, which has already broken out, or a symmetrical triangle that is going to give us a little bit of whipsaw within that breakout zone, but we want to be very confident and have high conviction that the momentum is going to continue to the upside. So now let's look at BTC, opening this chart up here. So let's quickly take a look at the weekly chart. 30K zone was the main level that we were looking at for a demand. When we go onto the daily chart, we notice that there are buyers each time the price was able to come back to around that 30K zone. Very, very well respected. We see a first time, second time, third time, fourth time, and then we see a series of lower highs contracting the volatility, and then we saw our first injection of buy pressure with a huge spike pushing the price up to around $38,000. This is that first injection of buy pressure where we are seeing that shift into a volume accumulation mode where buyers are really starting to take control. The high R vol from the buyers, as we can see right here, if we zoom out, we've had more buy pressure within this single daily candle here compared to really any other time since kind of earlier in January in that sell-off. So we are seeing a shift where buyers are coming into the market in terms of the VSA, and it does look like they're definitely taking charge of the market. We already saw a break above this previous resistance as a new level of support right now, so it's looking pretty decent. So when we are going on to the 12-hour chart, this is where we're going to talk a little bit more about the two options that we're going to be playing out with. So let's get our snip and then discuss the first option that I currently see, and then the second option if there is a little bit of whipsaw here. So the first option is the series of lower highs right here, creating a descending zone as we can see, and then we see our horizontal level of support. This is our descending triangle formation, which recently broke out with high R vol from the buyers. The pullback does not have as much relative volume coming in, transacting, selling, compared to the push to the upside. That's what we're looking for volume confirmation, and then we're getting our validation of this previous resistance as we can see. Previous resistance, turn to support, turn to support, turn to resistance, resistance. Now it's going to be a nice new level of support within the confluence zone because there's a descending zone there as well. So in terms of a technical standpoint, we're sitting right next to a strong level of demand, and there's going to be a lot of buy pressure within this higher low because this is a low, this is a higher low, and then the expected higher low is going to be where we currently are right now, and then all we're waiting for is that next expansion phase. One thing to note is we see also a high, a lower high, and a lower high. If we are looking at it from a larger symmetrical triangle standpoint, we see a low, higher low from the wick, and then a higher low right here. So we see 1, 2, 3 from the bottom and 1, 2, 3 from the top, creating a squeeze within the price action. So I wouldn't be too hesitant if it does start to consolidate a little bit more, because I don't know about you, but I'm looking at the larger time frames. I don't mind if this actually starts to break out and it's a very quick break from this symmetrical triangle, or we get a pullback that is going to be testing this low right here with this series of higher lows as well as this descending zone, creating a nice level of support, and then we're going to be looking for a squeeze, something like this, where if we do see a rejection from this high right here, and then we see this descending resistance create more of a confirmation that that is a major level, then we're going to be looking for this symmetrical triangle right here. We might see a little bit of a pullback, maybe a wick coming, dropping all the way to make a higher low here, but overall, as long as we're contracting within this symmetrical triangle, we are looking for continuational pushes to the upside. But as of right now, we've already broken the descending triangle formation, which is right here. within our zone. So that's going to be our major level of support. So even if it starts to trade a little bit further down, the bias is we're going to have a either descending channel or a wedge, and that continuation is going to come through. So those are the two options that we're looking on at BTC when we look back at a smaller time frame. And also, we do have an average BTC volume indicator, which averages out the volume of the largest exchanges that retail traders are using. So if you don't have that, definitely check out Performante Trading on TikTok, and we also have one for Ethereum. Thank you very much, Mitch. Much appreciated. So when we are going on a smaller time frame, let's just take a picture. Definitely a lot easier to explain it. We see high RVol from the buyers, pullback, creating a nice consolidation, contraction in volume, and we're also seeing that previous major level turn into a new level of support. Resistance, resistance, support, support, and we're seeing buy pressure come in, making higher lows still. We see those higher lows right here. So it does look like the price is able to hold this zone. It definitely looks overall bullish. The volume is great. The price action is great. We've already had a strong impulsive push that did have lots of buy volume. There's less sell volume than there is buy volume from the way up compared to the way down, pulling back to a nearby resistance, which is acting as a new level of support. So the confirmation from a technical standpoint definitely is valid. And now we're going to be looking at the US dollar, because we do want to see the US dollar move to the downside when crypto is doing well. So let's just make this a little bit bigger and then look at the US dollar, and then we will look at some of the other tools that we like to use within the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets, like the BTC dominance and stuff like that. So let's now go into the US dollar. We're going to take a step back and look at a much larger time frame compared to the 12-hour. Let's go to the monthly chart and take everything off for a moment, and then just draw on it, understanding market structure, because that's pretty important. So from a fundamental standpoint, we know that there is a tremendous amount of stimulus coming into the market. If a market is diluted with an asset, that asset is going to lose value because more people have it. For the amount of value that it's supposed to attain, you're adding more units to represent that same value, so it's going to be worth less. And we see that stimulus is coming in. Joe Biden's coming in, and he is going to say that they need to print more, in my opinion. They said that $2 trillion was a start, so that's the mindset that they're currently at. So the overall bias is going to be to the downside. The only situation where we're going to see deflation, where this is going to be moving to the upside, is when they have to raise interest rates because there's too much inflation. Right now, there's only inflation really on assets, like stocks, looking at houses, real estate, looking at paintings, like really anything that is investable is really moving to the upside, maybe other than fiat currencies like the US dollar. But we are seeing asset prices inflate, and we haven't seen the cost of the goods and services that everyday people are purchasing inflate yet, and that would be the CPI numbers. So I think until the CPI numbers start to get worrying and quite large, we're going to see the stimulus continue to pump up the markets, because there's so much riding on the U.S. equity markets. So many retirement funds and pension funds are really in need of the markets to continue to move to the upside. Many people will be heavily impacted negatively if the stock market collapses. So the government knows that, and they're making sure that it is well inflated so it keeps on moving to the upside, even though the inflation at this point it is taxing the US citizens, because from around March till now it's like a 10% move to the downside, which is quite significant. Moving on to more of the technicals on why the US dollar is, in my opinion, moving to the downside. We see a right strong squeeze right here. Major level we could not pass for quite a long time, and then we see back it was a previous level of support, pretty major level at around 88, somewhere around there. Not so much back here, but especially when we start seeing that contraction where we see resistance right there, going to be that major level. So we were trading below this major level, contracting. We broke through it without any real significant validation, and we retested it, and then we came up and absolutely perfectly touched this one, basically not to the cent, but pretty close to it. And then what we're seeing at this point is a pretty major potential double top, where this is the first top, and then this is that second top. So we're currently at a major level of support, as we can see. And in my opinion, I think we're going to be moving to the downside. Since that double top high was formed, that second top, we've been saying that the US dollar should be going down. Things like BTC, gold, silver should be moving up, and they have been. And now we are at a major level where there's going to be some level of interaction. And that's why I think we've been very patient with BTC, because the major moves of Bitcoin, we want this to be moving down. So we're going to have a consolidation. We're going to have a battle between the buyers and sellers at this major level of current support. And at the end of the day, I do think it's going to fall. So we're going to be looking for continuation patterns within this zone that gives us an edge. So then we have a position on before the move occurs. So that's what we're going to be looking for, is continuation patterns within this zone that give us an edge, that allow us to know that a potential impulsive push is going to try to break this zone. If it cracks, that means there's going to be a pretty big shift in confidence, and I think there's going to be a point where that's going to be moving to the downside. The US dollar is going to be moving to the downside, and then BTC, Ethereum, Link, BNB, Polkadot, all these different alts are going to be absolutely mooning. So that's what we're going to be looking for within the large time frames. When we move on to the daily chart, let's take that and put it all on. 88, 89 is going to be that major level of demand that we're looking for. Let's even make these green to illustrate my point even further. So let's go like that. Make it a little bit bigger. Make it a little bit bigger. So right now what we currently see is a potential ascending wedge. What we're looking for is something along the lines of this, where we see a nice wedge and then we see it test that low, and once it breaks that low, it starts to fall. So let's look at the bars pattern. This isn't a perfect ascending wedge, but let's just take that zone right here. That's potentially what we're going to be looking for. I'm going to be moving something like this. It's going to go something like that, something similar to that. So we are currently in a wedge. I think we're contracting. I think we may get a little bit of a move to the upside, but overall, as long as we're holding these nice, just slightly higher highs, pretty weak for the bulls, I think it's going to be looking good to then get that next jump to the downside. And then once it breaks the around 89, 88 range, there's going to be some level of hesitation. Once it breaks it, I think we're going to see another move to the downside. That's going to be creating a really good opportunity for the overall alt market as well as BTC to really have a strong push. So that is the potential outcome that we're currently seeing for the US dollar. Let's just take a look at a 12-hour chart here and then draw a nice little picture to explain even further how we are currently looking at the market. So we see a previous resistance right here turning into a new level of resistance, or new level of support, sorry. Oh, my bad, wrong one. I'm looking at that horizontal zone right here. So this is the red line I was talking about. Previous level of support turn into resistance, turn into a resistance. So that's going to be the ascending zone of resistance that we currently have within our wedge formation. And then I was looking for a nice series of higher lows. Looks like we have found it, and that's why I think we could see a nice little topping. And then once we see the crack breaking a zone of confluence, we'll see a nice hesitation, nice rolling failures right here, and then once it breaks below a major zone, maybe here, it's going to have a quick move to the support zone, going to have some level of hesitation, come up a little bit, and then once it cracks, I think it's really going to start to move once it breaks 88. So in my personal view, that's going to be how I'm going to be really perceiving the market at this point. I think it still looks really bearish, like we saw right here. High, high, higher high, and then we saw that nice squeeze. We saw a little bit of whipsaw kind of action, lots of volatility, especially when we saw it climb all the way back up to retest this ascending zone again. That was a little bit surprising, but at the end of it, we were still able to get that nice bullish push from the crypto market, and I think we're going to see something similar from this as well. So right now, that's how I'm currently seeing the market. We could see another dump to the downside, and a rally, and then a dump, and then a rally, and then we're going to be looking at maybe something like a channel. We don't exactly know just yet. Depends on how much buyers there are in the market. But if this does come together all kind of like synchronized, let's say, this will break at the same time the BTC symmetrical triangle, or you could call it the descending triangle breaks. So BTC is right now let's say going like this. This is the 30K zone, and then it had a pop, and then now it's trading like this. We could see it come down and like trade within this zone. That would be the second option. That would be the more volatile option. I think if that's the case, the US dollar is going to slowly chart to trek up a little bit higher within the ascending zone. And then once we see that move to the downside, BTC is going to be kind of crumbling. Some of the weak hands are going to be getting out, and then it's actually going to recover throughout the series of higher lows, and then it's going to start to move to the upside. That's going to be an option, but I think the other option that we're seeing right now is this is the 30K zone right here. We're seeing a nice squeeze. We saw a first pop, and then we're seeing a pullback, and then we're going to start to pretty quickly see that impulsive push to the upside. It's going to hold this zone. We're not going to trade back above this level, and then we're going to be seeing an immediate or pretty soon contraction and then impulsive push right here. We're going to be within this zone, and once we break that market structure to make that lower low, we'll make it a lower high, but then we're going to be really close to start to move to the downside, and I think BTC is going to be moving up during this whole phase to the downside, similar to what we saw right here. So that's going to be what we're going to be looking for. We can see kind of October 2020 was when we started really seeing the market move for BTC. We can see since October, the ascending wedge broke, and then this entire move right here was when Bitcoin was absolutely mooning. So that's what we're going to be looking for, is a negative correlation between the US dollar and BTC, and that's going to be what we're going to be looking for to see a break-in. Is an ascending wedge. It's going to be a fall. It's going to be a fall, and once it breaks below this current level of support, we're going to be looking for that continuational push from the bears for the US dollar. So now we're going to be looking at the BTC.D chart, which is the Bitcoin dominance. Let's open that up, which is going to be this one right here. Let's open that up. It's on the 2-day. Let's go to the weekly chart. So we're in my opinion, the pre-alt season zone. When alt season comes, the overall market dominance for Bitcoin collapses. We can see right here, Bitcoin was above 92% dominance since the inception of the blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, that entire sector. Once alt season hit, basically at the start of 2017, BTC dominance hit an all-time low of 37%. Huge move for the alts. So I think we're going to be looking for something similar, and that will be coming when this nice triangle breaks. So we see a series of higher lows. We see our low right here. We see it test as a resistance. And then we see this squeeze that pushes to the upside, and we see the higher low continue to hold this nice ascending zone. So right now we are viewing this as an ascending zone of support for BTC. So BTC dominance is making a trend to the upside, where Bitcoin is taking back the dominance within the overall bear market, because in a bear market, BTC on average is going to hold its value at a greater rate than an alt. But then in a bull market, BTC will appreciate significantly, but some alts will absolutely moon. So we're going to be looking for these opportunities, as well as obviously investing in Bitcoin. So we're going to be looking for profits in every which way direction. But right now, we are still seeing this hold, and this is the confidence for the bulls, for BTC dominance at least. And then we saw a nice series of lower highs right here. We had a little fake out, popped up above this descending zone, but was able to hold this market structure right here. We see lots of hesitation, lots of wicks right here, major level within the price action, as well as this resistance. That's going to translate over here within the same zone, and then yet again we see that as a resistance. So we're kind of getting capped right here, and then we see an ascending zone creating a series of higher lows with lots of wicks right here, indicating that BTC is still not giving up to appreciate at a greater rate than some of the alts right here. So as time goes on, I think when the bull run is really starting to present itself, we will see a failure and then a massive dump similar to what we had right here for BTC dominance. But as of right now, I think we're still in that contraction. So that's what I'm going to be looking for the BTC dominance when we are kind of flagging or signaling that alt season is here. We're looking for a failure of this zone. We see that nice descending zone break. So we got that traded volume above this zone. We got put right back into the symmetrical triangle, which is bearish for this chart, which means that alt season is coming soon. So once we start to contract a little bit further and deeper within the triangle and start to break, especially at like that 61.8 fib level, right around here, that perfect mean, we're going to be looking for sells for, well, not really sells in this market, but we're going to be looking for alts that are absolutely exploding, which means that this chart should be going down. So that's going to be the overall approach that we're taking to really look at as many tools as we can and utilize all the things that TradingView has for data, because why not? It's there, it's very useful, and understanding what the chart is doing gives you a lot more confidence when you're looking at the whole overall market, not just a single chart. All right, now we're going to be looking at some altcoins here. Let's actually just put it on here. We did talk about silver recently. We made a video about the potential silver short, and as of right now hasn't made a whole lot of movement, but it's still looking really bullish. What chart were we looking at? We were looking at this zone, similar to this right here, major level, somewhat like this, kind of bigger of a zone, but this is a nice level of confluence within the higher low that we're looking to see hold. Now moving on to some alts, we're going to be first looking at Ethereum, which is squeezing very, very tight. We had a previous squeeze, but it's nice to see that Ethereum is holding. The buyers are entering the market and still looking to enter within the higher lows. We had this squeeze right here, right, and then we had these series lows, failed breakout right here, and this was the previous all-time high, I believe, 1400, maybe it was 12, closer to 1200. Let's take a look here. Yeah, it was that all-time high. 1200 was right here, the second high right there. So 1400 was that all-time high. So we're squeezing right up against that. And what happened to BTC when we were squeezing up against that all-time high? Can anyone remember what happened when BTC was squeezing up against 20K? Let's go here. It was right here. Very similar price action that we were looking at. Nice horizontal level of resistance. We saw a series of higher lows. Let's bring it back right here, and that is the structure that we were looking at. And once it broke, we saw a massive push to the upside. Let's just take a look at the initial target that we were looking for, which probably would turn into, yeah, so definitely broke it right out and then retested for that nice level of support and then continued off. So if we're looking at Ethereum in a similar way that we were looking at BTC, that played out very well in that breakout above all-time high. Let's move this to the 6 hour. What we're going to be looking for, let's take a closer look at Ethereum. Also, this is the Ethereum average volume indicator that we talked about. Thank you again, Mitch. Big shout out to him. Average volume of all the different exchanges that retail traders are using. So if we are looking at the potential next zone for Ethereum within this push to the upside, as we're expecting, let's get the horizontal ray. We're looking at around $2,100. So then if we're looking at a potential long position right here, stop entry below previous low, which is going to be right around there. It's going to be a 2.75 to the minimum target. And then at that point, you could set a trailing stop, you could set a manual raising stop, whatever you're looking for, depending on how you're going to be looking to exit the position, or if you're just going to be holding on as an investment because you expect it to continue so much. But whatever you're looking for, I think this could be a really good opportunity. It's contracting, it's squeezing up against that all-time high, similar to what we had in BTC. It's really, really contracting here. You know, every major contraction births a huge expansionary phase. And we can kind of see that right here, where you see that huge expansionary phase come in, which is right here, boom, from 260 all the way to 475. We get the contraction, right? We get that nice contraction, and then we get that squeeze right here. And then what do we get after that? A massive push to the upside yet again, right? So this is the expansion phase. This is the contraction phase right here, ascending zone, and then you get that next expansion phase. So what we're seeing right here is something very similar. Where yes, that previous was a descending zone, so that's even better in my opinion. But this is very bullish because we see these higher lows that the buyers are able to get in at a higher price each time. They're willing to accept the higher price because they're speculating that it's going to be going even higher from here. But we see that expansionary phase right here, and then we see the contraction, 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 and I think we're going to see that next expansionary phase. And we did see this before, like we talked about. First expansionary potential phase where we see this zone and then breakout and then a failure, but we were able to hold the higher lows, and then we saw another squeeze, another squeeze, another squeeze, but we're still holding the higher lows, right? So this still is a potential confirmation that, a potential price action pattern that if we get confirmation, could be a very solid opportunity for people who are looking at Ethereum. So that's going to be one to definitely keep an eye out on, in my opinion. So hopefully, if you don't have any exposure in Ethereum, would not be a bad situation in my personal choice. So let's now look at Chainlink a little bit. Not going to talk about it too much. The opportunity was definitely when it broke above that like 15-ish zone right around here. We were talking about this level right there. Broke a little bit below that zone, but was able to hold it on a large time frame. Let's go to the daily here. And then made that strong push to the upside. We have not hit target yet. I believe it's at 25. Let's take a look here. No, it's closer to 27. Pushed it down a little bit. I think it's 27. Broke out right there. Broke out right there. 28, 27. So I still think it definitely has room to grow, but we were already talking about it when it was in the 15s range right there. So hopefully some of you are looking at Link. Definitely looks pretty good. Strong momentum to the upside. The volume, let's take a look at the indicator. Is not too bad. We see that nice R-vol that is from the bulls, which is really good to see. You're seeing strong market structure, not absolutely ideal, but it does look like it's potentially creating a nice squeeze, like an ascending wedge squeeze up, similar kind of like this. BTC has these from time to time as well. So this is that squeeze that's going to squeeze, 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 and then that next push to the upside. So definitely still has room from a larger standpoint and from a kind of smaller price action standpoint. Definitely looks like it could potentially squeeze into an ascending wedge, which will have a blast off breaking the current target that we currently have for Chainlink. So that's going to be Link. Let's quickly look at BNB or Binance Coin. Recently broke that all-time high, as we can see right here. Unconfirmed connection of the all-time highs, which could create a potential huge ascending wedge if it does look pretty decent. Let's move that right here. And let's make that white, just because it's just like a zone of sensitivity, not exactly only a support or resistance. Move that a little bit further down. So we just broken above that all-time high, which was around $38, $39. Retesting that previous level of resistance is a new level of support. Broke the potential for a head and shoulders right here, which is great to see. So a failure of a head and shoulders formation. Let's go to a smaller time frame. Got a nice ascending zone that is connecting the higher lows. Not absolutely perfect of a zone. What would be really nice is if we were able to see a slight sell-off. Let's get our brush. Sell-off and then a retest of that series of higher lows. And that gets us our ascending zone, which then has a move to the next hesitation area right around here. And then we're hopefully going to get another next push to the upside. But as of right now, it would be nice to see a slight hesitation at that 46 range to get the nice setup for the ascending triangle formation. And then when we are looking at the next potential zones, probably will line up pretty solid with the next area of potential, let's say, hesitation right around here, because if we are looking at the 2-day again, we see that's going to be the next area that we could potentially see. But this ascending zone and ascending triangle could be a nice continuation pattern, which was its previous resistance, acting as a new level of support, with alts hitting all-time highs, with the US dollar falling, lots of speculation in the markets. I think that could be a really good pattern that we're going to be looking for on a larger time frame. But like I said, we don't really have a whole lot of confirmation that this $46 zone is going to be a support zone, so we want to be sure that we have at least one more validation, slight fall, and then hopefully when before we're breaking out, we're trying to test that as a third and final validation, and then we're going to get that break. So BNB does look pretty solid. We're going to be a little bit more patient on that one. I think Ethereum is already there. Like, we've validated that 1430 zone already, unlike BNB. So this could be a potential, I guess, an early opportunity before the major push comes, where a lot of the cryptocurrency moves are going to occur. Not going to talk about Dogecoin just because it's absolute mayhem. There's, in my opinion, not really a fundamental reason why you should, other than other people are buying it. To be completely honest, it's not really a project that is worked on. I know Elon talks about it a lot. A lot of people are really interested, especially in the realm of TikTok. So wishing everyone the best in that, but I'm definitely not going to be looking at that too much. Something that I am looking at is going to be Polkadot. Once it breaks this high, I think we're going to be looking really good. It's just consolidating right now. Let's take that off, because that's not going to actually be showing the proper data. It's been on a monumental move. It's basically at its all-time high consolidation, but it hasn't really seen much movement until it broke the $6.30 zone. So if we're looking at it from an Elliott wave standpoint, we see our first move consolidation, second move consolidation. We should get that last final push to the upside here. Now, we could get, let's just get this zone right here, that last sell-off. So we see that nice consolidation here. We see the sell-off and then a rip to the upside. Don't be surprised if we get something similar. So, you know, at the end of the day, yes, you could put a stop loss and it could look not great, but I kind of treat these types of structures more as either you are investing and you're looking at the longer picture. So you might be looking at like all the way down here, giving a little bit of room if it does do that, or you are just having to set a stop entry above the zone, and if it does do that, kind of like we saw right here, you're not going to enter until it starts ripping above this level. Once it starts breaking above this level, then you've entered, you got your stop loss below this zone, and then you're going to be looking for opportunities. So I think Polkadot's a really good opportunity. Nathan's been talking to me about it, so definitely going to be something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on for sure. Uniswap's another one that I've been keeping an eye on. I think it does have some pretty good opportunities if, let's say, some of these large exchanges start getting funky as well, similar to Robinhood. I don't think so, but we'll see. It's good, and I think it's really important to have a decentralized exchange, and Uniswap's largest. So if you are interested in the realm of DeFi, this definitely is an opportunity for you. Since it broke the all-time high of $15, we've been on a pretty strong push to the upside. Really, it's just been so bullish that I think even if you are just not really great at TA, it's not hard to buy and hold. We just had that nice contraction. This is that ascending wedge that we talked about. We can see that right here. It's a nice resistance zone, as we can see, with a series of ever increasingly higher lows, I should say. And then we get that nice break. So if we are going to get a nice pullback to maybe around this zone right here, like the 14-15 level, that could really be a good opportunity. It was a previous all-time high if we do look at the long-term time frame. So a pullback to that zone probably wouldn't be a bad bet. And then if we do see some nice wicks similar to what we had when we saw the previous retest for the $7 range, that could be a really good opportunity. And then it could set up for a really solid next push for Uniswap there. So as of right now, it'd be nice to see a slight pullback similar to what we got right here. So let's get our bars pattern. And if this is going to be the next push, you know, we saw this push like so. That could be a really good opportunity. And then we're going to be looking for that nice squeeze somewhere in there. We're going to be setting up for that previous resistance, new level of support, squeezing, and then once it pushes to the upside, You'd be looking for something of an entry here or an entry here, expecting it's going to break up, but either way, we're looking for continuation patterns. So I think it's a little bit early just yet, but we're going to be looking for something along the lines of that for Uniswap. So definitely there is volatility in altcoins. If you are trading with leverage, do not trade like 20x or 10x leverage, in my opinion. You will not be able to take the pullbacks because it's just so volatile. You'll sell early, you won't be able to get the full move, but if you're able to use leverage responsibly with 2x, maybe 3x, you could really reap the rewards of being able to use leverage responsibly. Even like 3x or 5x really is the furthest that it ever go, but because these could pull back in 20% so easily just from the high here. Pulling back to where I'm looking for a support is 20%. So if you're leveraged 5 times, you're basically just completely eliminating your entire account. So it doesn't make sense. So definitely be careful out there, but there's really good opportunities in my opinion. There are some other opportunities at Cardano, which is looking up to set up a potential opportunity here. I think it could. What would be nice is if we saw a failure. Let's just quickly take a photo here of Cardano. If we saw a nice failure of this zone. So we saw a failure and then make a higher low from this low, and then we see something a little bit deeper. Because right now we're going like this, and then if we fall and make a higher low and hold this zone and then make a descending zone, that's going to be a great opportunity for a strong impulsive push. But I still think there's a little bit left for Cardano. That's about it. We're going to be looking at some more stocks and different assets in the next video, but wanted to have a really good understanding of what is currently occurring within the cryptocurrency market, because there are some pretty unbelievable stuff, and we want to keep everyone informed. We want to keep everyone in tune with what's happening. A lot of things in the space that are moving. Hopefully everyone is staying safe. Definitely understand that if something goes up exponentially, it's probably going to be coming back down quite aggressively as well. It could go higher, but when there's volatility, a lot of people get FOMO, and I just want people to speculate responsibly, let's say. Thank you very much for watching the video. Hopefully you got some education, value, information, entertainment from it. If you liked it, please like the video. You guys absolutely loved the silver video that I recently did, which I really enjoyed making. So if you think that instead of these like crypto market update, global macro updates, we focus on like one certain trade or one certain opportunity, if you think that's a better option, we can go ahead and make the videos a little bit more specific into one kind of specific asset or even one real trade. So let us what you know in the comments below. We appreciate you joining for another cryptocurrency market update. Until next time, have a good one, traders.